the invisible armies and open gates, deconstructing to modern cybersecurity catastrophes. Data security breaches are no longer anomalous anomalies in the digital landscape. They are severe, systematic breakdowns with staggering real-world consequences. As technology weaves itself deeper into daily operations, consumer profiles and the physical objects around us, the vectors of cyber attack multiply exponentially. To understand the gravity of modern threats, one needs only to look at the pivotal events of 2017, that year. The digital world witnessed two distinct yet equally chilling security disasters. One orchestrated through an invisible army of everyday objects, and another born from an unpatched corporate vulnerability that was disastrously worsened by a communication failure. The hijacked eyeballs, the rise of the Persiray botnet. Imagine a silent army numbering in the hundreds of thousands, recruited right from the shelves of unsuspecting homeowners, small businesses, and offices worldwide. In 2017, this scenario shifted from speculative fiction to alarming reality with the emergence of the Persiray botnet. The malicious operators behind Persiray did not target heavily fortified government databases or corporate core networks. Instead, they focused on a vulnerable asset of modern convenience, Internet Protocol IP cameras. The botnet exploited a fundamental weakness, targeting over 1,000 different models of IP cameras from several separate manufacturers, rather than trying to crack complex administrative passwords. Persiray scanned the open web for exposed ports, essentially digital windows left unlatched. Upon locating an open port, the botnet injected a command that hijacked the device's basic operations, forcing the camera to automatically connect to an external host site to download and install a malicious payload. Once the malware successfully downloaded and executed, it did something brilliant yet terrifying. It completely deleted its own installer file from the local storage. By erasing its footprints, the malware lived and operated strictly within the volatile memory RAM of the camera, rendering it almost entirely invisible to conventional detection mechanisms. More than 122,000 IP cameras were subverted into this digital ghost army without a single inkling of knowledge from their rightful owners. These hijacked cameras were subsequently weaponized to launch devastating distributed denial of service DDoS attacks. A DDoS attack occurs when an attacker commands an entire network of malware-infected devices to simultaneously flood the computational resources or bandwidth of a targeted system, knocking it offline. As the Internet of Things IoT continues to expand and connect a growing universe of appliances, the Persiray crisis stands as an enduring proof that every unsecured endpoint is a wide-open invitation for large-scale cybercrime. The look-alike trap, the Equifax catastrophe. While the Persiray botnet was quietly building an army from everyday household items, a distinct corporate nightmare was unfolding at the absolute center of consumer financial tracking. In September 2017, Equifax, one of the largest consumer credit reporting bureaus in the United States, publicly announced a staggering security breach. Cybercriminals had successfully identified and exploited a critical patch vulnerability in the firm's outward-facing web application software, gaining unfettered access to the deeply sensitive personal data of millions of customers. The scope of the initial exposure was catastrophic, but it was the company's subsequent incident response that turned a bad situation into an operational disaster. Seeking to manage public panic and assist affected individuals, Equifax hastily established a dedicated website designed to let consumers check whether their private identifiers had been compromised. However, instead of hosting this crucial lookup utility safely as a verified subdomain of their primary corporate website such as security.equifax.com, the organization registered a completely separate, distinct domain name. This operational misstep created a massive blind spot. Sophisticated phishing networks and individual cybercriminals immediately recognized the opportunity and registered dozens of unauthorized lookalike websites with nearly identical spellings. Anxious consumers, already fearful of identity theft, routinely fell victim to these deceptive copycats. Hoping to verify their security status, users willingly input their names, social security numbers, and birth dates directly into the malicious infrastructure of the hackers. Armed with this stolen credit profile data, attackers easily assumed the absolute identities of their victims. In these situations, proving identity theft becomes an extraordinary nightmare for the consumer. Because the hacker holds the keys to all the correct personal records, it is nearly impossible for the victim to prove to a credit agency or bank who they actually are. The historical events of 2017 serve as a critical warning. True digital security requires a comprehensive approach. Security is only as strong as its weakest link, whether that link is an unpatched IP camera sitting on a desk, or an untrusted separate web domain launched by a panicked response team in the middle of a corporate crisis.
Bạn muốn học mạng máy tính nhanh hơn, hiệu quả hơn và có người đồng hành xuyên suốt? Khóa học mạng máy tính 1-1 sẽ mang đến cho bạn một giảng viên hướng dẫn riêng, xây dựng lộ trình học phù hợp với trình độ và mục tiêu của bạn. Bạn sẽ được thực hành liên tục trên các bài lab thực tế, rèn luyện kỹ năng cấu hình và xử lý sự cố mạng như trong doanh nghiệp. Với lịch học linh hoạt, hỗ trợ tận tình và tập trung 100% vào sự tiến bộ của từng học viên, bạn sẽ tự tin chinh phục chứng chỉ kỹ sư mạng quốc tế và sẵn sàng bước vào sự nghiệp quản trị mạng doanh nghiệp. Khóa học mạng máy tính 1-1 học đúng trọng tâm, thực hành chuyên sâu, sẵn sàng cho công việc thực tế.